most people. So I did promise yesterday that today's talk would be going further with insight practice. I don't call it insight meditation because it is a meditation, and the great revelations which come with a peaceful mind is what makes what we call insight actually happen. But there was one other story. I told one story about Sam and Vi, but I don't think I told a story yesterday of the two messengers sent by the emperor. Remember, this is a simile used by the Buddha. And of course, it had to use the sorts of things which occurred in daily life in the time of the Buddha, which was agricultural or sometimes, mostly agricultural stuff, sometimes military, sometimes kings and rulers. That was the sort of world which the Buddha lived in, and so he used that for similes. And this one simile he did for the relationship between samatha and vipassana, the calm and the insight, was of this emperor who ruled a vast area of land. And he had a son who was trying to train to take over the empire when he got old or when he died. And you know that sometimes there are some emperors who actually get insights and just retire early. One of my favorite stories, I'm just going off on tangents as usual, from the suttas, was of a king who went out with his army to train them. When he was coming back to the palace, he passed by these two mango trees. It's a two mango tree simile. And one of those mango trees had lots and lots of ripe fruit, and they're just ready for eating. So he looked at them and said, wow, I'm going to sort of have some of those later. And the other tree was barren, didn't have any fruit on it at all, just the branches and the leaves, but no actual mangoes. And he almost cursed and swore at that mango tree. What's the point of having a mango tree without any mangoes on? But anyway, he looked at the other tree with lots of mangoes. He said, I'll just go back to the palace, get changed, and come back and get some mangoes. So that's what he did. He went back to the palace, got changed. When he came out to get the mangoes, his soldiers hadn't waited to get changed. They saw those mangoes and they went for them. And so all those mangoes, not all of them, but most of them, were just all eaten. The only ones left were ones which weren't ripe or something wrong with them. But worse, all the trees, all the branches and the leaves of that once wonderful, magnificent tree with lots of mangoes were all damaged and ruined. It was like it'd been through a cyclone. But the tree, which never had any mangoes, was just as beautiful as it was before. Nice, healthy branches and twigs and lots of green leaves and nice and shady. And it just stood there without any problem at all. But the one which had all the mangoes was almost destroyed. It's soldiers trying to get the mangoes. And he had a great revelation there, great insight. If you are a tree with lots and lots and lots of delicious mangoes, you're going to get attacked by birds, by people, to try and eat those mangoes. But if you are a tree with no mangoes at all, you can stay there peaceful, happy and quiet for the rest of your life. And of course, the simile. He thought, my goodness, I'm like a tree with so many mangoes. I'm a king. I've got power, I've got wealth, I've got possessions. Sooner or later, someone's going to try and take those from me. And if I survive, I'll be very injured. But maybe I'll be killed. So having seen that mango and got the insight, what it's like to have too many possessions. Other people just covet them and eventually sort of attack you or steal you or find some way to get them. So he abdicated. When he got back to the palace, gave up his throne, and became like a hermit. I think it was before the time of a Sangha. Became a hermit and just lived peacefully for the rest of his days. With no possessions, So no one really wanted him or bothered with him. He lived a very peaceful, quiet life. So that's the trouble. If you have too many possessions, other people cover them. If not the other people, the government, they'll tax you. Or, sometimes amazing, your kids. So it's nice to get rid of all of your possessions. So if you've got too many possessions, please talk to Leha, the donation box. We can help you, only not out of greed, out of compassion for you. That never works. But the main part of the story is just the idea that there's some kings, they do abdicate. And, any Vietnamese here today? No Vietnamese meditators. Well, it's usually, oh yeah, that's right, yeah. But we usually have a few, and of course I've been to Vietnam a few times. And there's one place they took me, just between Hanoi and Ha Long Bay. There's some mountains, and it's quite a well-known mountain because that's where one of their kings abdicated. He's a quite well-known king, I forget his name, but anyway, that he abdicated and went up to this hermitage on top of this mountain. It's a long way up. I went up there, and sometimes people say, Ajahn Brahm, were you fit enough to go up there? Well, with the help of the cable car and a few other things. It's a long way up. But I was very impressed when he got up the top there, that was where a king lived his many years of his later part of his life. Even though it was very austere, still he appreciated the peace and quiet and having nothing to do, not worried about people attacking him, because as a monk he had nothing. But he used to be a king before in Vietnam, and I was really inspired by that, I must admit. But anyway, the simile of the emperor and his son, he wanted, how can you train someone to be an emperor, to rule? You might send him to university and stuff, but the best way is like hands-on, learn by experience. It's the same way how to meditate. You can read about it, you can write a thesis about it, but the best way is to do it and learn by, a lot of time, by trial and error, by your own experience. So anyway, he told his prince, go off into this little border region. There's a region there which is semi-independent. You look after it, you run it, and learn how to be an emperor. So later on you can take over the whole empire. So that's what he did. He sent his prince over to this place and left the prince alone to learn how to rule. And of course, this was a young man. And he'd always been under the eye of his father all his life. Now he was free. And so do you think he ruled? No, he held parties. Concerts, performances, sports matches. He enjoyed himself. First time away from home. And then, of course, things weren't getting done in this little realm. So they sent a delegation to the emperor to complain. And the emperor sent back with this delegation one of his wisest ministers. Wisest ministers to compassionately tell this young man how to rule a little kingdom. It's okay to have some pleasures. You're not a monk. But, just rule as well. Make decisions. And as soon as a wise minister came, the prince said, I don't care who you are or where you're from, I'm the ruler of this realm, nick off. Nick off is I don't know why they call it nick off, but it's supposed to be a word in Australia. It means like get lost or go, depart, in haste. Where did that word actually come from? I don't know, it's origin. But anyway, so he wouldn't listen to the minister, even though it was from the king, the emperor. So the minister went back. When he told the emperor said, oh yeah, it's my fault. I should have known better. So next time he sent the wise minister to this realm, accompanied by one of his most battle-seasoned, fiercest generals. This big guy. And so the general and the minister appeared together in front of the prince. The prince recognized the minister. I told you to go a long time ago. Again, go. I'm not listening to you. And that's when the general walked straight up to the prince, grabbed him by the hair, got his sword out, put the sword to his throat, and said, I recommend you to listen to this minister. I'm listening. It's amazing just how clear your mindfulness is when you've got a sharp sword at your throat, held by a general who doesn't care what happens. And that is where the prince learns just the duties of rulership as well as the pleasures. And the Buddha told that story, and he said, well, you must work out by now who those two members of the royal entourage were. The general stood for samatha, stillness. And the wise minister stood for insight, wisdom. You need both if you're going to become wise and enlightened. Otherwise, you might see something, you don't really recognize it, and you're just too restless to really see it. So with samatha, stillness holding you still, then a wise minister can teach you. And you see things you never thought could exist before. And that's one of the problems with insight. Sometimes we only see what we want to see. And what is true, we tend to deny. That can't be true. And that's one of the problems with getting insight. We need courage and stillness and power of our mindfulness to see very clearly. So one great example of that, which many of you who have been listening to me over the last few years have probably heard so many times, but it's the best example which I've heard, and this came, again, not from a Buddhist sutta or Buddhist book. This came from my friend Bernard. He was the associate of Stephen Hawking's. Because I said already, he was a member of the Psychic Research Society in London. He was actually the president. We try to keep that a secret because people who go and hunt ghosts or investigate levitation or mind reading, with great scientific rigor, he thought that maybe that would take away his reputation as a solid scientist. But no, he just kept it quiet for a while. But now he says he's emeritus professor, he can do whatever he likes. So this was one of the experiments he performed. It was actually somebody else performed it, but he was involved in it. And it was the levitating flower pot experiment. And it was performed at Imperial College in London, part of London University. So, one of these scientists, physicists, one of his friends, who was also interested in this weird stuff. What's going on there? What rules of science is it breaking, or is it new rules of science we're discovering? So he announced to his friends that he discovered the secret of levitation, and he was going to demonstrate it. Demonstrate it in one of the most prestigious technological universities in the world, Imperial College. And he was going to have all the best equipment there, infrared, ultraviolet, cameras, and goodness knows what else to detect. If it happened, it would be recorded. And and he had not for students or for the general public, only for these fellow professors and great scientists in London. So he actually had lots of people in the lecture theatre, and he entered holding a flower pot. And he put the flower pot on the bench of this lecture theatre. And he said he's now going to demonstrate levitation. And you can come down and see there's no wires or anything anywhere. And so, if it works, got the cameras, infrared, ultraviolet, whatever there, to make sure that if it does happen, we've got proof for other people afterwards. But then he said he needs the audience's help. He said part of the secret of levitation is creating the right atmosphere in the room. And so he asked all these PhDs and Nobel laureates and stuff in the desk there, so please can you help me by doing the old Indian holy chant of Om. And I couldn't believe when I heard this, that all these crusty, conservative, bearded professors would actually be sitting there chanting Om, 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 Om. And they actually complied, which was amazing. But then as they were chanting Om, the flower pot lifted up off the bench. It actually worked. It's amazing. Photographed it, still photographs, videos, ultraviolet, the whole works. It was amazing. And then afterwards, when the experiment was finished, he asked everybody, what did you think of that? And there was a couple of professors, trained observers, who do real experiments as their profession. They've been trained for years, their whole life, how to record accurate information. And they said, what are you talking about? That flower pot was on the table all the time. It never lifted at all. And that was actually the point of the experiment. Because the truth of the matter was that underneath that table, they'd installed this very powerful electromagnet. It wasn't real levitation, it was just the electromagnet that lifted up the flower pot. But the difficulty was that if you turn on such a large electromagnet, it uses such a high current, you can hear it. So one moment there's nothing, then as the frequency of the electric current can be heard. And that's actually why they had to chant Om. The Om was just actually to hide the trick. The electricity was suddenly being turned on, so they couldn't hear it. All they heard was Om, 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 Om. And that masked the electric current. But then why did you say it was on the table all the time? And they were honest. It never rose. I was looking at it all the time. It never lifted up above the table. They showed in the pictures, the video, that's been faked. And the point was, when something occurs which to you is impossible, which cannot occur, you don't see it. Your perception is already filtered before you become aware of it. So to them, they actually saw the flower pot on the table all the time, even though it was lifting. Because to their perception, to admit it was lifting, would be way too challenging for them. And that is why even bare awareness, bare perception cannot be trusted. What you see, you think, I saw it. Did you? Or did you filter that before you became aware of it? And of course you know the truth. You may have had experiences of that before. You've heard a conversation, and that's not what they said. You can see, say, a car accident, and you describe it to the police, and the police know that what you're saying is not what happened. You don't know that. You're not consciously lying. It's just what we do is, we don't even see this. We don't see what actually happened. We see what we think should have happened. We fit it in to our understanding of the world. That is why wisdom, real insight, is very hard. We've got to suspend somehow that part of our mind which filters and which embellishes. This is a very simple insight, but being a monk, I can be honest to this, is why is it when people fall in love? You fall in love and your partner is the most wonderful person in the whole world. They're so beautiful and so charming and so, oh, I'm so lucky to, be a partner of such a great person. Oh, it's so wonderful. And a couple of years later, why the hell did I marry her? I must have been drunk, I must have been mad. Now you're laughing there because, it's exaggerated a bit, but there is some truth to that. That when you're upset with somebody, you cannot see the redeeming qualities of him or her. But they always were there. The good qualities and the bad qualities were always there, but we filter them out. When we're in love, we just like seeing the good stuff. And that's all we do see. We think that's real. When you're hating somebody, you're really angry at them, all you see is the bad qualities. And just take some, for example. Take Donald Trump. How many of you like and respect Donald Trump? How many of you have ever met Donald Trump? How the heck do you know? Okay, I'm challenging you. It was on this occasion, I do put myself outside my comfort zone quite often. On this occasion, that one of the that's right, she was teaching year sixes in Rollystone Primary School many years ago. She used to come to our Armadale meditation group, and that's been going for such a long time. And anyway, she was a year 6 teacher. She invited me to the school to teach some of the kids. And I thought maybe, year 6s or year 7s, those were the ones I would teach. But they gave me the, grade 1s and grade 2s. How can you teach grade 1s and grade 2s the Four Noble Truths? Or dependent origination? But you just get put on the spot. And sometimes, please excuse me, I like being put on that spot because you're outside your comfort zone, you rely on your insight and your innovation, and sometimes it works beautifully. I already told you that time when you're doing the Buddha meditation, and that was a brilliant thing. But this time, I wasn't teaching the meditation, I had to teach them some Dhamma about what Buddhism is. So I had about 60 infants in this class. I'm not talking about me. And so what am I going to teach them? So I just asked them a simple question. I said, how many of you don't like eating rice pudding? And then about 2 kids put their hand up straight away. They didn't like eating rice pudding. And you know what? No, there's 6 or 7-year-olds, 5 or 6, 7-year-olds they look around and see, they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So they see 2 kids put their hands up. So a few more kids put their hands up. And then it only took a couple of minutes, and the whole 60 kids, they all had their hands up. They all agreed they did not like eating rice pudding. Fair enough. And then, put your hands down, kids. How many of you have ever eaten rice pudding? About 4 kids put their hand up. Rice pudding isn't an English sweet, I know you eat after lunch. It's very cheap, very simple. But this was in Rollystone, so there weren't many poor people up there. So only about 4 kids had rice pudding. But the whole group decided they didn't like it. And that was, say, my deep Buddhist teaching on how we bend perception and how delusion actually happens and how that changes the way we look at life and has huge inputs in what we do and what we see, much more than you expect. So that's really good, because the the parents in the back got it, and even many of the kids got it. They started laughing. Why is it we don't like rice pudding when we've never eaten it? Why do we not like Donald Trump when we've never seen him? That's just an example. So little by little we learn just how we bend perception and see even what we see we cannot trust. Remember, I'm just saying this again, that the time in the public men's toilets in the middle cubicle, I saw this most incredible, beautiful piece of feces. Is that possible? I've got to be careful because sometimes people would say, I could just wait here for a moment, Ajahn Brahm, and they'd get the ambulance to take me away. You know, I learned that early on when I first came to Perth, because being a monk, especially over in Thailand, you don't care what day of the week it is, what month or what year. And this was honest, that there was one time over in Thailand, I did not know what year it was. You know the rainy season, you know just the moon cycles, but you know the years and the months and the days even didn't make any sense to you. Over here, of course, Saturday and Sunday are just the weekend. And on Fridays is when you go to Nolamau to listen to the Dhamma talk, don't you? But you know those are days of the week which have some meaning to you, but over in Thailand that didn't mean anything at all. So you didn't even worry about what day of the week it is. So when I first came over here, I still didn't know what day of the week was. It wasn't important to me. And then there was this gentleman who had an epileptic fit while he was visiting our city centre. That was when it was in Magnolia Street. And so I called the ambulance, and the ambulance came pretty quickly. It's close to town, because an epileptic fit, you can sometimes choke yourself. So he was not that bad, and so they put him in the ambulance. But before they put him in the ambulance, they asked him, what day of the week is it? And he didn't know. And I said, what are you asking that question for? That's a standard question we ask. If you don't know what day of the week it is, you know you're out of it, and we put you in the ambulance. And I said, I'm very glad you didn't ask me. I'd have been in there too. For that, I started learning the days of the week again for self-preservation. But it's interesting just the way we look at the world and the importance we give it. If days of the week are important, you know them. If they're not important, you don't see them. So much of our perceptions are what we choose to perceive. And we're blind to much which we don't want to see. And our blind spots are just the most difficult to actually to see and to spot. We have a blind spot there. And the monk who taught me about blind spots was this. He was a Marine in Vietnam during the war, and he was a really tough guy. He said to me, he's dead now. But he told me that when he grew up in Buffalo in New York State, and he joined the street gangs, and he would actually go around with bicycle chains, beating up his enemies, playing for keeps, he called it. Really violent guy. And he joined the US Marines. He volunteered to learn how to get tougher. And then when he went to Vietnam, he was in the front line, the grunts, and he got shot in the back of the head. Please excuse me, one of the best things which ever happened to him. And so, unconscious, got evacuated and had to take out, he's got this big lump missing in the back of his head. And the doctors told him that that's where your sight is located. So, after the operation, you're going to lose sight, you're going to be blind. And he said, well, I didn't doubt him because I knew his character, that he would kill himself. He would commit suicide if that was the case. But when he took the bandages off, he could actually see. He said, it's amazing. He expected to be blind, but his eyes could see. And he had his big pension of $1,000 a month from the army. And he just enjoyed himself. And that's when he told me that he was playing baseball with some friends in New York City somewhere, in a park. And he said, somebody hit the ball in his direction, and he went to catch it, an easy catch. And then the baseball vanished. He was going there, he saw it, and then it disappeared. And then it suddenly appeared again. And he said that was such a weird experience because baseballs aren't supposed to go out of existence for a few seconds. But it did, and it reappeared again. He realized that was his blind spot. Because of the operation of taking out some of the part of the brain where sight was located or processed, there was part missing. And he said that his mind or brain, whatever you wish to call it, in that hole, there wasn't like a black hole in there, just see the light, but then something was missing. The brain actually painted in, what it expected to see there. What you think should be there is what he saw. And when he's told me that, it revealed a lot of insight into how delusion works. When there is a hole or difference or difficulty, something happens which is not expected to happen. Many times you can't see it because your mind adds in not what's actually there, but what should be there. And that's what you see. So, those sorts of obstacles to insight is why that sometimes we can't really trust at first some of these great insights which we get in life. Now, I was a good meditator, I think, even when I was a young layperson. But when I was a monk, I just really got into it. Especially being a young monk or a young nun, you have much more time, not so much responsibility. And I do recall in this monastery, my 4th year as a monk, during the rains retreat in this monastery in the northeast of Thailand. I don't know if I should say this, but I think I've said it before. The rains retreat when I became enlightened. Do you want to know? Or shall I say it another time? Be careful, Ajahn Brahm is a very tricky monk. So it just, meditation was great. And this was when I was actually deep meditation and then getting all these great insights. I was on the walking path, maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midnight. I didn't want to go to sleep because the mind was really alert. And all these insights, sometimes you start getting one insight, you say, I didn't understand it before, now I understand it. And then another one came, and another one came, one after the other. I was just really blissing out. And then the big one came. Oh, that was incredible. I thought, wow, another arahat has arisen in the world. I'm giving it away, aren't I? But anyway, that's what I thought. And I was just like walking on air, just I'm not levitating, but just so happy and so joyful. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And we were supposed to get up at 3. So I hadn't gone to bed yet. So I went back to my room, just lay down, just to stretch my body. But didn't go to sleep. There's no way you can go to sleep. You had this incredible energy inside of you. And so I laid down for half an hour, and then, okay, might as well get up and just go sitting. So I was in the hall before they rang the bell at 3 o'clock, sitting perfectly straight. And this is jungles. This is really, even in the morning, it's really hot. I was so straight. Normally, most days, I was down here somewhere. But that day, it's totally straight, so clear. And when we did the morning chanting, it wasn't like yo-so. It's yo-so bhagawa. Had so much energy. And then we went on arms round, and that was just such a wonderful experience. walking on arms round, and all these villagers are putting rice in a new arahat's bowl. And as they did that, you're not supposed to speak to them, but you blast them, you really zap them with so much metta. And I just zapped so many villagers that morning. Zap, 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 zap. And then you came back to your monastery, and that was weird. Because it was a remote monastery, only villagers would feed us. And it was the same food every day. It was, the sticky rice, and it's, rotten fish curry, pladek. Rotten fish curry, same every day. They'd catch the fish. It was like subsistence in the paddy fields. And actually, to keep them for the whole year, they put them in earthen pots and just put some plastic over the top and just keep them. So, till they went we do that with, in Europe anyway, with things like duck or with pheasants or something. They let them get a bit mouldy. I don't know what you want to call it. And that was just, the people from Thailand know what I'm talking about. And it was the same every day. That was the curry. It tasted terrible. But, that's what you had to eat. The only thing you had. But this day, there was another pot. It was a big, saucepan, saucepan of the rotten fish curry. And another one, and it actually smelled quite delicious. And that was it was a pork curry from town. I don't know where they got that from. But then I thought, I know where. The heavenly beings were celebrating the new English Arahat. Well, that was appropriate. We have birthdays and do celebrations, marriage celebrations. So on the big occasions, of course, you graduate from university, it's a big party. So why not when you become enlightened? Makes sense to me. So we sat down. Today I was going to have a good meal, something delicious. So anyway, the abbot, I was number 2 in line, the abbot over there. He was a local. He actually was born in that village. And so, it must have been what he got used to, rotten fish curry. Did he take any rotten fish curry? Not at all. He took this whopping, enormous, just great big scoops of this nice pork curry and put it in his bowl. Not even 10 monks could eat that much. And we do eat a lot. It was just so greedy. But it didn't matter, there was plenty left for me. What he did next was totally unforgivable. Having taken the nice curry for himself, the nice curry which was left, he picked it up and he poured the 2 curries together, stirred it all up, and saying, "Mun gan lui, it's all the same, it's all the same." Bloody hypocrite. If it was all the same, why did he take his first before moving up? That is just not on. That's terrible. And then it hit me. Oh my goodness. I knew enough about Buddhism even then to know that arahats don't really care what they eat. And certainly they don't get angry and upset. And I was angry. I was upset. And that, if any of you have an experience, that's one of the worst experiences in life. To think you're an arahat and find out you're not. And after that, I didn't care what I ate after that. I just stumped it in. I was just so depressed. It didn't matter. Pass it down the line. Oh, gee. That spoiled your whole day, that did. But what it taught me is that how insights can be so deluded. I really thought, I'd cracked it and done something. And I think that's why the heavenly beings, if they did make that pork curry appear just to teach me a lesson, I needed it. So that's one of the reasons why you've got to be very careful. And it's true that, you get some very peaceful states of mind. But how do you know it's insight? And how do you know it's not deluding yourself? Insight has a function, it does something. Insight creates peace, creates stillness. It also creates loving kindness as well. So insight, you can know it not by just how you can argue with your friends over the coffee table about the nature of dependent origination. That's not insight. That can be knowledge. You can be having a sharp intellect, but not a free mind. So real insight teaches you how to be peaceful. And sometimes real insight, when things go wrong, they're meant to go wrong in life. Every time you have a disappointment, a difficulty, a pain, a loss, what do you expect? Remember that saying, it's very based on the Four Noble Truths, but it arose when I was in Singapore. And it's actually true, this is what happened. I was in a temple, and this Singaporean gentleman, he said, look, I've got to go to work. So I jump up, can you please tell me, what is suffering? But say it quickly, because I've got to go. It never happened to the Buddha. When somebody asked the Buddha for some advice, they'd stick around and have it explained. Same with Ajahn, they wouldn't sort of rush away. But for me in Singapore, I've got a minute to teach me Buddhism. And of course, many times you'd say something and be hopeless. And I only tell you, again, as I said this before, the times when it worked. You said something wise. And that's where I said to him, look, suffering is asking from the world something it can never give you. I thought, wow, that's cool. And how easy that to remember, asking from the world something the world can never give you. Very quick and powerful description of suffering. We're always doing that, aren't we? Asking our bosses at work to be compassionate and understanding and peaceful. Asking our bodies to be healthy when we're on retreat. I can get sick when I'm at work and take days off work, but when I'm on retreat, I've waited such a long time for this. Please be healthy, body. Yeah. Wanting to have a room in a cottage where no one snores or makes... You know what we should do? If you notice someone in your cottage snores, please let me have the name, and next retreat we'll put all the snorers in the same cottage. It makes sense, doesn't it? That's asking from the world what it will never be able to give you. Because you snore too. So little by little, so we learn to be less demanding. And little by little we understand just we ask way too much from this world. And we never find any peace. That is why that when you really get into meditation, you get some really basic insights. And insights which, just like those scientists who could not see the flower pot rising when it was actually above the table because it couldn't happen. It's just too impossible for them to see. The eyes could see it, but it got filtered out before it came to the conscious awareness. So what they actually saw was not true. Anyway, sometimes So in order to get real insight, you have to have courage and fearlessness. They have this word in Pali called virya. Many people translate it as energy, but it misses too much. Sometimes when we translate from one language to another, sort of as a, maybe it's a rough description of what the word means, but it misses out too much. There's many here from many different lands. English may be your second language. You may have another language which you talk. And sometimes we translate from one language to another, but we always lose something in translation. And that's this word virya. Virya, also the first part, vira, means a hero. Someone who's usually from the times of going into battle against the enemy. Someone who's willing to sacrifice everything, their own life, for the cause. Doesn't hold anything or protect anything of their body. They use that for the elephant. The royal elephant goes into battle, doesn't try to protect its legs or its tail or its trunk or its ears or anything. That's called virya. That type of energy which is courageous, heroic, sacrificial, which won't keep anything back in your search for the truth. It's very rare to see that. But little by little, you get so close, you do have fear. I remember my own experience, and I don't mind saying that, you get that close to jhanas, it's just there. You can just step in there, it's easy. No obstacles, you've gone through those obstacles, but you're just so scared. Because what you have to let go of to make that final step is you. That's a bit much for me. But you get so close, the joy, the pleasure and the profundity. This is wonderful, it's so gorgeous. I don't know if I can. It looks so nice. But I don't know. It's so gorgeous. No, I can't. My character is, what the hell, I'm going for it. You overcome your fear. I always think, it's the sheer joy, the profundity, the purity of it. It just pulls you in. But the fear is there, which is one of the reasons if you develop some courageousness. Remember, I had to give up everything to become a monk and just be a nun. Especially the bhikkhunis. How much you give up to become a bhikkhuni is a huge amount. There's sometimes, even like shaving off all your hair as a woman. As a man, it's not that hard, because you go bald anyway, some of you. That's one of the things I've got a brother. My brother, has gone bald. And he wants his hair. I'm not bald, I have to shave every fortnight. If I didn't shave, I'd have long hair. We got the wrong scalp. Oh well, that's my suffering. But you do have to give up a lot. But that's not as much as you give up to get into deep meditation. That's why I've already I don't know if I did mention to you, yeah, I think I did. One of the descriptions of the jhana is Sambodhi Sukha, the enlightenment happiness. One of the other ones is Nekama Sukha, renunciation happiness. When you give up, the amount of freedom you have. And it's joyful, it's delightful. So little by little, it's the happinesses, which is such an important ingredient to meditation. It's the happinesses which really overcome your fear and allow you to go to the next step. It's just too attractive, too enjoyable. You go for it. So little by little, that takes you into the deep meditations. But after you've got those deep meditations, just like that experience I had on my 4th range retreat, you're so clear afterwards. I still got it wrong. It's so easy to get it wrong. But nevertheless, the number of insights you see when you've got really strong mindfulness is enormous. To see a world in a grain of sand. It's like it's insights all over the place. Now your mind is really strong. The 5 hindrances of wanting, of ill will, restlessness, sloth and torpor and doubt, they're gone. So there's more chance of what you see you can trust. There's more penetration. You just really are aware now. It's not just you can just see all the beautiful clouds in the morning time. You can feel the wind on your face. Everything is alive. Like life is enhanced. Like I just saw in a computer, they used to have like ordinary resolution. They got HD, high definition on your screens. And it's like that, high definitions. Everything's so clear and precise. And that's really goes to immense levels of clarity. That allows you to see much clearer. So it's obvious, if any of you do get some very good awareness, the superpower mindfulness, where you can just see a brick. Wow, look at all this. Look at the floor. There's one piece of, that's all bamboo. One piece of bamboo, there's just incredible numbers of different shades of brown. And just the way it's all put together. It's in meditation, it will happen to you. You open your eyes, you've had a really good meditation, look at the bamboo, wow. What have I been sitting on all this time? It glows. So that degree of ability to perceive and penetrate into things, and stay there long enough because it's delightful. That is what we call the contemplation. It's not thinking. Thinking will just give you more ideas. It's just like what other people do. But now you're seeing really, really deeply into things. And it's not just clumps of bamboo you look at. Once you've had a good meditation, I mean a really deep one, that you've never had before, then of course, that is so powerful, so strong. I just can't imagine anybody not saying, what the heck was that? That was amazing, that was so wonderful, that was incredible. Why? And one of the things to notice is not what's there, but what was missing. What wasn't there in those deep meditations you had? And go back to that simile of the tadpole and the frog. The frog doesn't think what's there on dry land, but the frog noticed what was always there in its whole life is now gone. Water. You know the word in Pali for something which has always been there and now it's not there anymore? It's called anicca. That is the real deeper meaning of the word anicca. Not rise and fall, but fall gone for a long time. Where's it gone? That's weird. And it is pretty weird. Something which you've never noticed because it's always there. When it's gone, ooh, now you notice it. And when you notice those things, you don't have to have a great intellect to understand what this means. You see your 5 senses are totally gone, like they've never gone before. Yeah, you can just be ignoring your sense of sight or have your ears bunged up or just, I don't know how you can, under anesthetic, but then your mind is pretty gone under anesthetic, you can't feel anything. But this is they're really gone. And you're having the time of your life. Joy. It's pretty simple to see the 5 senses are suffering. Because when they're gone, yay, you're free. That's why we have all these similes like the 5 senses being the 5 walls of a very big prison. And you've been born in that prison. You've grown up in that prison. You've got a job in that prison. You've met another nice little prisoner and you've got engaged and got married and had nice little prisoner kids. And you think, well, prison's not bad. I've got a really big cell in the better part of the prison. And you've got lots of nice entertainment, great food and stuff. But you're still in jail. Why don't you realise you're in prison? Because you've never seen anything else. And you've got these prison guards. You really think the prison guard is your friend? It's called Will. Will, the old prison guard. Never allows you to be still. Even you come on retreat. You've got nothing to do. Just sit down there. Stop doing things. Well, what should be easier than that? Sit there, do nothing. Why not? Because the will comes in. Don't believe that, monk. You've got to do something. Look, everything else you've ever achieved in life, you've worked hard for it. Well done. This says will. So, if you're going to get meditation, you've got to do hard work. It's the only way. Come on, just sit there. You got pain? Enjoy it. You got sort of memories of the past? Well, you've got to remember the past. Come on, of course you have to. Otherwise you're being irresponsible. And you've got to learn about the mistakes in the past. Not ask any psychologist. There's a few psychologists here. I've got to be in a bit of trouble here now. So you've got to think. It's obvious you've got to think. If you don't think, you just get stupid. That's will. And will never leaves you alone. Even when you're in bed at night, you fall asleep, and will says to you, no, good. What are you going to do in the morning? What have you just done? What's going to happen when you leave the retreat? It's only a couple of days left. What's going to happen to you? I don't care. This is my retreat. It's like a holiday. Butt out, Will. So that's like being in prison. But you're in your prison cell, and in the prison cell they've got a retreat centre as well, in the prison. So you go to the retreat centre in the prison, and you find in your little room in the prison retreat centre, you find that underneath the bed there's a hole. There's a tunnel. And you look at that tunnel, and it was built by this fellow, must have been a Krim a long time ago, called Zach Yamuni. And you go in there, and it's got a guide, what you're supposed to do. The Eightfold Path. So you read the guide, right view, just right intention, blah, 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 blah. And so you follow the path, the Eightfold Tunnel, out of samsara prison. And you go deep in the tunnel. When you come out, you're on the other side of the prison wall. You're outside in the realms of the mind. You escaped from the prison. And so it's a totally different experience, totally different world. Of course, it's not true freedom yet, but it's not that far away. And so you know that path is always there for you. And will can't get through there. You can, but not the will. You have to let the will stay in prison. That's where the prison guards belong, in prison. But you can escape the Eightfold Path. You understand so much about, even just understanding you're in prison. Can you accept that? No, I'm free. There's monks and they always say these stupid things. Get a life, monk. It's good. Get a relationship. Have kids. Just go traveling. How many of you haven't seen the Great Wall of China yet? Would you like to see the Great Wall of China? Just go and see the Great Wall of Bodhinyana. Don't know, it's the same really. That's the only difference in size. Niagara Falls. Have you seen Niagara Falls? Then you go see Serpentine Falls. Same thing. So anyway, little by little, we change our perceptions. And we see this wonderful thing of like freedom. So you see suffering, we see anicca and anatta. So this was, I told a couple of people this earlier on. This was a simile which I invented, how how many years ago now? I think I remember this. 30 years ago. Wow, yeah. Yeah, it's true, 30 years ago. Maybe around this time. I invented this simile of the driverless bus. Of course, sort of Google and Tesla and all sorts of things have pinched my idea. There's a trouble being a monk. We're not smart enough to copyright. So the driverless bus simile is this. Some of you have heard it before. It's life is like a bus journey. Okay, that's pretty ordinary. But life is like sitting in a bus going on a journey. And sometimes your bus is visiting this beautiful scenery. These majestic mountains and waterfalls and green pastures and lovely tranquil rivers, and everything is just idyllic for you. What happens? Your bus driver, he puts his foot down on accelerator, and you get out of the beautiful stuff too early. My goodness, it's Thursday today. There's only a day or two left. Where did that time go? You stupid bang, bang, bang. It's okay hitting your head with a teddy bear. It doesn't hurt. This stupid Will. Come on, slow down. This is wonderful. When I go back to work, husbands, wives, kids and stuff, can't we slow down time when you're here to enjoy this place to the max? But your stupid bus driver just accelerates. And then sometimes you're going through some really difficult times. You all had difficult days when you've been here. And even outside the same, you get really sick. You go, so many problems, don't know how you're going to pay the bills. People are always criticizing for things you never did. You trust people and they let you down. So in the difficult, what I call the toxic waste dumps of life, you tell your bus driver, now's the time to press your foot on that accelerator. Get out of here, quick. What does your bus driver do? He brakes. At least he goes slow. So the pain and difficulties of life, they last much longer than they should do. Stupid bus driver. So actually many people come on retreats, they listen to Buddhist talks to train their bus driver to be smarter, to have less problems in life, or rather less time with problems, and more time with happiness and peace. You think that's possible, don't you? And then to be able to train the bus driver, you've got to find the seat of the bus driver first to teach. And so with meditation, you find out the seat of the will deep inside you. And when you come to your real bus driver's seat, that's where you find it's empty. There's no one there. That's not what you expected. Life is not what you expect. But it's there. You see, it's no one there. There's no bus driver of my life. So what do? You go back to your seat and you shut up. You stop complaining. You stop telling the bus driver, it's unfair, you're braking, it's unfair, you're accelerating. Be quiet. And when you don't have craving or ill will, then your bus journey is finished. Enlightenment. So that's bus driver simile. Pretty neat, eh? Okay, so now I'm going to go from this part of the prison to the reception area part of the prison, where I had to do some interviews up until 10:20. So thank you again for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.